I kick off the interview in part 3 with Derek Mills by asking him about his new book, The 10-Second Philosophy.
Yeah, it's called The 10-Second Philosophy. The 10-Second Philosophy was so cool because what I recognised that when I was in my failure area for those 18 years, the things that really shifted my life and begin to shift me, and awaken me even more since then, were like words, thoughts, questions, phrases and ideas and those things. So it wasn't as if there were major happenings in my life that allowed me to shift. It was as I mentioned, the still small voice. So the 10-second philosophy says actually it only took me about 10 seconds to change and become happy. Yeah. All this quote unquote success that occurred after that place came out of me going, non-self, true self, I'm going to be true self. And when I'm in my non-self, I'm not happy. When I'm setting goals, I'm not happy. And if I'm not happy, what's the point? And my non-self comes from being away from my truth. That took about 10 seconds for those concepts to come from me. What was really interesting is that ever since that point, far more has come out. And they're often triggered by a word, a thought, a question, a phrase, or an idea. So the whole philosophy came out of me to say, well, as I'm writing this, sitting at the keyboard, saying, allow it to come through. What can come from my genius that can tap into the reader's genius somewhere out in time to allow them to go inside and have their genius give guidance to them? That's what the philosophy is all about. What the philosophy says is, it's not about me, it's about you. And what you need to do is go inside. So the whole of my genius said, the whole of the book, even the structure, the ideas, the 10-second phrases, the exercises, about you go inside into the work because your genius is already with you. As you go inside into the work, your true self reveals itself to you. So I'll just give you a brief kind of a parallel with that. Is often when I'm counselling or coaching people, they often come to me and they would say something along the lines of, here's my story, kind of here's why I'm here, and you know that you've got to hear why they're here. And I sometimes find myself sitting there thinking, and then responding, in an ad-libbed kind of way, is that you're really here because of your lack of trust in yourself. Or your lack of trust has brought you here, as into this trouble spot where you're now saying, I need some help. And it's really about saying, actually, you have everything inside of you that can allow you to not just solve the challenges that you came here with, but to turn your life around and up and on in a way which we couldn't even write a goal about. Because when you go inside, there's the creativity and the genius inside each of us that we could not articulate externally because the amount is so great and so vast. It isn't in our conscious mind, isn't in our ego, it's just there inside of us. So I often talk about the truth starts with beginning to trust ourselves once more. And it's the lack of trust in true self that leads us away from ourselves. So I often give people little exercises to begin to trust the language of their true self, trust their intuition, trust their instinct, trust their feelings, things that they haven't done hitherto. And doing this maybe in small ways. Maybe just you go right instead of turning left. Sit at this table instead of this table. That chair on the train to that chair. And then later on, when to call a client, when to say those words. And especially, which I've learned in my own experience, when we find that the intuition or the guidance or the feeling is then conflicted by the logic and the mind and the ego, is to go with the feeling. I don't know how this is, but it's been my experience over the last 8 to 10 years that when I had really good strong signals from within, it's as if the left brain was going, no, logically that doesn't work because of this, and you shouldn't do that because that, blah. And when I followed through here, the opportunity that arose out of that, me following that intuition, was massive. It's only when I look back I realised, heavens, this has happened because of that. And that's when my mind was saying, don't do that, or go right, or do this, whatever, or 1 + 1 = 2, therefore that wouldn't work. When I dismissed that and went with this instead of the mind and the ego, I looked back over time and found that massive shift occurred. So now, what I do is I follow my true self on small things and the big things. And here's what really, like with anything else, we have a relationship with our truth. So the more we get to trust our truth, the more we get to trust our true self and the messages and the guidance from that place, it trusts us some more. And in trusting us some more, as in any trusting relationship, it reveals more to us. It literally reveals, so now you're getting this, now you're paying attention, now you're with me, I want to share this with you. If you just go and do that, you'll achieve this. And you'll get that wisdom from within. And oftentimes, we got to pay attention to the feeling and to the intuition, not to the logic of the thing. Because most of the stuff actually doesn't make any logical sense, but when you do it, you go, I'm going to keep doing this. Because how do I get from here? People say to them, as you know, how did you get to there, Phil? Well, I didn't kind of work it out on a bit of paper. I just kind of went in, discovered what was there, followed the messages from that place, followed through on the words, thoughts, questions, phrases, and ideas that came to me from that place, trusted that it was right for me, did it. And you know as well as I know by what you've written in your works, that if we have all this stuff on the inside, and this great conversation, these great feelings, and this great space we create, but we don't take action from that place, nothing happens. No, it's no good holding a lovely space. We've got to do something with that which comes from that place, otherwise it doesn't happen.
Yeah, people often ask me about how do you distinguish and know what is your truth, what to follow, and how do you make sense of it, because in the Western world we're so unused to that kind of way of being. And I say to people, it's quite common, that thing that people often have when they go to view a house to rent or buy, and on the paper the property looks perfect for them, and when they go there, although it's got the right number of bedrooms, near the right schools and the park and everything, it's facing the sun in the right direction, they walk in the house and they go, I cannot live here.
And the other person goes, nor can I.
No.
And they run straight back to the building.
Makes no sense at all.
Other people might like that house, but for them that doesn't really work. And there are lots of examples of that. I mean, you probably know the story about when I severed my hand. Well, just before I did that, so when I was about 21, I lost the use of my hand, and as a result of that I developed the lightning process and all sorts of other things that I got into. But about 15 minutes before that, we'd had a party, I went to sleep in the afternoon, I got up, had a shower, and when I was having the shower I just thought to myself, I wonder what it would be like if you couldn't use your right hand, if you'd lost the use of your right hand. And so I washed my hair, my body with my left hand, just to see what it was like. 15 minutes later, I'd actually lost the use completely of my left hand for the next 6 months to a year. And I thought, on reflection, I was like,
Be careful what you wish for.
Wasn't the same hand, but
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was close. Wow.
There's some interesting...
I didn't realise that bit. That was the prelude to that.
Yeah, I don't talk about it very often, but now...
Yeah, but don't tell anyone.
And there's some interesting experiments by Rupert Sheldrake. I don't know if you know about these. He's written a book which is called something like Dogs Who Know When Their Owners Are Coming Home. And he's looked at this idea that people often have this premonition, this instinct something's going to happen, this intuition. Quite often people will say, I was just thinking about you, and then you phoned. And psychologists would explain that away by going, well, you probably thought of a million other people they never phoned. You only remembered the time when the person you were thinking about actually phoned. And Rupert Sheldrake said, well, that's a reasonable thing to say, but is there any evidence to back up the psychologist's point of view that we've just remembered this one instance when those two things aligned? And he did some experiments. He got some people to give him 4 of their friends' phone numbers. He'd get 4 of the friends in a room, and he randomly, a computer would select one of the people to phone their friend. So it'd be one of their friends was phoning them, and they had to guess which of the 4 it was. And what they found was statistically they were much better than a 1 in 4 in their guessing. So that they were intuiting somehow, and he's done the research on this, and actually if you go online you can still do it, it's an ongoing research program, that people seem to have some kind of sense of truth within them. So it's a really interesting experience. You should check it out.
Yeah, will do, absolutely. Because the kind of the dog thing I'd heard about, I think must have been an anecdote of that, and some studies that were done about even when they changed the timing of the owner coming home, maybe from the same person, that the dog will go to the door. What's interesting though is that if we're in business, it's what I call holding the space. You've got some business clients that you're thinking, come on, when they're going to call and do the business, or it's just not happening for you. Maybe what you do, just take your corporate hat off for a second, okay, and we just hold the space for that person. And you know what your intention is, and you hold a space for that person, and you continue to hold that space until their energy, through time and space, goes, there's awareness on me. Now, and it's unconscious, isn't it? And as that awareness is on them, they feel then more inclined to call you. There's something else which I kind of write about in the book, which is I had this experience of very similar to this Rupert Sheldrake, and it was when you haven't seen someone for a very long time. So not last week or last month, whatever, but for a very long time. A friend from Australia or that moved up to country or whatever it was, and you think about them, and then literally they do call, and you haven't thought about them for absolutely ages, then for me, I call that what's called the cohesive alignment. Because we're all part of the same thing. We're part of the oneness. Now, there's oneness within each of us, which is our real world and our spiritual, or should I say spiritual and real world. And there's also the oneness of everything, which means we're all connected. So if the universe is all connected, a bit like a really incredible machine, one part is operating, kind of knows what the other part is doing. So when this part is in need, it kind of says, hey, and this part responds. So when I found that when these things happen where someone would call me, I'd call them and go, I was literally just thinking about you. I'd say, wow, I didn't see him yesterday, so they weren't in my mind, but they're in my spirit. And I say, begin to ask, what's happening for you? Don't just say, how are the kids, whatever. Say, this is really interesting. Right now, across time and space, something has brought us together. What's happening in your life that maybe I can help you or that you'd like to share? Or maybe I can share something with you, because maybe the machine is saying, that's where the answer is for you, or that's where the next bit of support. So the fact that this cohesive alignment where the universe is saying, actually, you're aligned with this person now, make that call. Well, ask something, say something. Say, what's happening in your life right now might be a good place to start, Or is there anything you'd like to ask me? And they go, I don't know. Actually, now that you're saying that, that's why they're called. That's why you put it together. And I think this kind of machine is kind of an extension of how the real universe works, when it says, you're in trouble and you're not being yourself. And it keeps giving us these signals. Maybe it's the car crash, for me. Or maybe it's, business not working out. Or maybe it's, you're this feeling of, what am I doing? And you're constantly second guessing yourself, constantly in your head. And when messages come to you, it's the universe saying, you're part of this stuff. So we're going to try and talk to you, try and communicate with you. Pay attention. Pay attention. As you pay attention to what's going on, you recognize, wow, that came in for a reason, because of the awareness of the oneness. Because if you, I guess an even better way to explain that is by attaching to the physical body, is that the whole system seeks to serve itself. So the whole universe seeks to serve you, as it seeks to serve me and everybody watching this today. Because we're part of that one body, that oneness. And I love the idea that, hey, we're all part of the one thing. Because whether it's a spiritual thing or a quantum physical thing, everything's energy. We can't escape it. Complete circle, everything's energy. So here's the thing. It's when we begin to recognize that as truth that things can begin to happen for us and the shift can occur. Because, I'm not likely to get a gun in my right hand and shoot my left hand. It's just not going to happen. I'm not going to even hold that thought. So no things can happen with hand when you do. So I'm not going to do that. Why? Because I recognize in doing so that I'm harming myself. So I wouldn't do that. I recognize that left and right are part of the oneness. In the same way, if I'm thirsty and I'm, my body wants a drink and my arm is reached out and the water's too far away, my legs will, without request, will automatically serve me and take me towards the water to have the hand get the glass, and as I drink the water, the whole body system takes that water to every extremity in the body. Because it recognizes, hey, we're all in this together, all part of the same thing, so we won't harm one another. And whatever happens, it'll be to the benefit and service of every part, and all parts, without requesting, serve the other. So everything wins. And when you have the heart pumping to all extremities, this to me is, almost like a model for the world to say, if we recognize that we're this one thing, there'd be none or less war, none or less fight. Everyone will be fed, because all extremities, whatever comes in, would serve everything. And this, for me, is around when we recognize that as individuals, that we're part of the collective, we can then share that message to other people. And then, some point, in time, things begin to shift at a bigger rate.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So we're coming to the end, and the final question really is, out of all the things that you've written about, talked about, stumbled across, what's this channel is all about live the life you love.
Okay.
What would be your gift to the viewers? And if you want to live your life you love, would be my top tip.
Yeah. My top tip would be, I like that, top tip for today, is actually that stop setting goals, because goals will take you out of yourself. If you have any idea whatsoever around the concept of happiness being a now experience, because it is. We can't be happy tomorrow. We can't be happy next week or next month or next year. We can only be happy in the moment that we're in. present. So when we set goals for ourselves, as we've been taught for the last 140 years, that what it really says is when you've got things into the future, then you're happy. Because no one sets a goal to be unhappy. So we all know when we set a goal that we have an attachment of happiness to it. But actually that's where the happiness stays, out there in the future. So my experience is actually we're working to be in the present time, in your truth today, and experience yourself today. And a practical way of doing that is to set standards, baselines, criteria, levels, qualities and rules from within, and stick to those standards set from your truth just for today, to keep us present in the moment that we have. We don't have tomorrow, it's just an illusion. We only have today. And the more we can stay present in our truth, with a practical tool such as using standards to keep us in that place, because they come from there and they help keep us there, we can be happy now, but more. The more we stay in that place, in our truth, the more our genius will reveal itself into our lives. And as our genius reveals itself into our lives, we can revolutionize our lives, and maybe even the world, because we're acting from the genius that's within all of us. And just for a moment, I think it's fair to look back and say, is this new? Well, no, it isn't, just that most of the world ignores it. You go back 2,000 years, and Christ taught, he gave, those who are Christians or those who know the Lord's Prayer, in the middle of the Lord's Prayer, these things kept coming back to me over and over again. It was, give us this day. Those 4 words, give us this day. Which to me, give us this day, when he said that, he kind of said, actually, it's about today, being who you are today, loving yourself today, hugging and sharing and caring and sharing your life today, experiencing life today, being who you can be, and your talents and your gifts today, in this moment, it's about today. Now, Son of God and all that, if he'd meant to say, give us this week, this month, this quarter, this fiscal year, this 3-year plan, he'd have said so. He didn't misspeak. It wasn't a slip of the tongue. He said, give us this day. And we can qualify that by saying later on in the Bible, he says, have no worry for tomorrow. That puzzled me for a while. Well, I'm a human being. How can I not worry about tomorrow? Well, the answer is really simple. Give us this day. So by being our truth today and holding this place of truth, we get to experience life today. If we get the best of ourselves into our life today, and our talents and our gifts and the flowing and our love and our heart is flowing for ourselves and everybody else, there is nothing to worry about for tomorrow, because you're already in the present best you today. So my top tip would be present, be your true self today, and set standards that keep you in your truth and act from that place.
That's awesome, Derek. You put that so eloquently as ever. Something about the way you talk, I just love it. Thank you so much for sharing. So that's Derek Mills, the author of 10 Second Philosophy, and general all-round amazing bloke. So check him out. I hope you've enjoyed this show all about introducing you to Derek's work so you can get more of a life you love now. So you guys tune in next time and see you then. You take care. Bye.